I'm so, like, if y'all realize, like, I always have this defensive mechanism. Like, I always have my guard up all the time, you know? Like, I'm always ready to, like, go at it with somebody that really, like, fight. It's not, I'm not like that. It's just, I had to be like that.
So what we're being told by witnesses and other folks that live in that area is that our suspect lives by herself in an apartment there, downstairs apartment. Today, her and 3 friends, one of them including our victim, went to some type of pool party earlier to yesterday, or this afternoon, or last afternoon. They ended up coming back home, and the 2 individuals, our suspect and victim, got into an argument over a boy.
She ran out of that apartment holding her head, blood pouring down her face, stumbling through the parking lot in the middle of the night while people watched and nobody moved. 18 years old? Endyah Adams had just been stabbed in the temple inside an apartment she thought was safe. She'd been at a birthday pool party just hours before. She had friends in that room, and by the time paramedics got there, she was barely holding on. She was rushed to the hospital, put on life support, and her family had to make a decision no parent should ever have to make. They pulled the plug. And now the woman who put that knife to her head is sitting in a Harris County jail cell, facing a murder charge with 3 daughters at home asking why their mother isn't coming back. But here's where it gets complicated, because the woman behind bars is telling a completely different story, and her baby daddy has 330,000 followers listening to every word he says. So who's telling the truth? Was this cold-blooded murder, or was it survival? Was Endyah the aggressor, or was she the victim of someone who snapped? Today on RedRage Crime TV, we are breaking all of it down. Prosecution side, defense side, and at the end, you are the jury. But before we get into it, if you've been pulling up to this channel, watching full videos, running to the comments, then bouncing without hitting subscribe, you've been in the house too long to still be a stranger. Hit that subscribe button right now. It's free. More stories are coming. Now let's get into it. Endyah Adams had just turned 18. 1 week before she died, she was celebrating her birthday. By all accounts from people who knew her, she was loyal. Someone who went out of her way for people she called her friends. Jada Randle was 23. A mother of 3 young girls. She and TikTok creator Lil G4, real name Guillermo Romero, were known online as the Romero family, with over 330,000 Instagram followers and a brand built around their daughters. By the time this happened, they had separated. Endyah and Jada had known each other since April. Witnesses say they were close. Endyah rode in the same car as Jada regularly. And when Jada was struggling without Pampers and wipes for her kids, Endyah stepped in and helped. Endyah had been staying in the apartment for more than 30 days. Under Texas law, anyone who stays in a residence that long and receives mail there may be considered a legal resident. Endyah's family says she had every right to be in that home. Then, somewhere in the middle of all that closeness, something cracked. It started before the night of June 11th. There was an earlier fight, caught on video days before the fatal incident. You can see them physically going at each other. Jada threw the first punch. Endyah got her down. They were eventually separated. Both sides say that after that fight they apologized. They moved forward, or at least they tried to. The night of June 11th, they were all at what Endyah's family describes as her birthday gathering, a pool party. People close to Endyah say it was calm. Everybody was having a good time. No real confrontation at the pool itself. The only disturbance was some boys standing on the roof of the pool area, which got the apartment complex to send an eviction notice the following morning. But somewhere between leaving that party and arriving at the apartment, something shifted. Here's where the 2 sides split hard. According to the prosecution's version of events backed by police statements and witnesses from Endyah's side, the argument started on the way back. One account says Jada received a phone call from a family member about the eviction notice, hung up, and immediately started directing her frustration at Endyah. Words turned into a fist fight in the parking lot. The fight ended. Jada went inside her apartment, and then Endyah followed. That is the turning point. Lieutenant R. Wilkins of the Harris County Sheriff's Office confirmed it plainly. Our victim decided to follow her back into the apartment and the fight began again. And that inside the apartment is where we're being told that our victim was stabbed in the temple by the suspect. Endyah's cousin, who has spoken publicly, says there was no real confrontation when Endyah walked back into that apartment. She says Endyah was just going to collect her belongings. She says there's footage of Jada pulling everything out of her own purse after the stabbing, not acting like someone who just survived an attack, but someone who'd just done something and knew exactly what she did. And the cousin made one more point that's been circulating across comment sections. The stab wound was to the temple. That's not a warning. That's not a scratch. Someone who grabs a knife in pure panic doesn't aim for the head. That's a detail people keep coming back to. Endyah's mother, Shay Taylor, got on a TikTok live and she was not holding anything back. She said the people who were in that room stood there and watched her daughter bleed. They didn't call for help right away. They didn't get a first aid kit. One account says Jada walked out of that apartment after the stabbing and went straight to Instagram. A neighbor who didn't even know Endyah was the one who stayed with her in the parking lot until the ambulance came. Shay Taylor lost her mother, she lost Endyah's father, and then she lost her daughter, and she's not letting this go quietly. After Endyah was removed from life support and passed away, the charge was upgraded from aggravated assault with a deadly weapon to murder. Jada's bond was set at $250,000 in Harris County, and when that bond got set, the case exploded online. Now here is where the defense builds its argument, and it's not nothing. Lil G4 went to his followers directly. He said clearly that on the night of June 11th, Jada was attacked at a party, managed to get away, and ran into a nearby home. He says Endyah followed her inside and continued the attack. He says Jada defended herself. He says Jada cooperated fully with law enforcement from the moment they arrived. And that detail is confirmed. Police stated the suspect was cooperating from the very beginning. Lil G launched a GoFundMe titled, "Help Bring Jada Home." When that was taken down, a second one went up. "Help reunite the Romero family." He stated clearly this is Jada's first offense. She has no prior criminal history. He said his daughters don't understand where their mother went. He said, "My babies are not understanding why their mom is not here." The fundraiser had a goal of $11,000 to cover the bond, attorney fees, and support for the children while Jada remains behind bars. A second GoFundMe was set up, this one by Endyah's family, to cover funeral and burial expenses. Endyah's sister wrote that no parent expects to bury their child at 18. That Endyah was betrayed by people she trusted, and that the family needed help giving her the goodbye she deserved. Two GoFundMe accounts, two families, opposite sides of the same tragedy. From the defense's perspective, the most important legal argument sits in one word: followed. If Jada left a fight, walked into her own apartment, and Endyah came in after her, that changes the legal picture significantly. Self-defense under Texas law allows a person to use force, including deadly force in certain circumstances, if they reasonably believe they are in imminent danger. And if Jada had already been in a prior physical altercation with Endyah, and Endyah re-entered the home after the fight was over, a defense attorney will argue Jada had reason to fear what came next. Defense will also lean heavily on the history. These two had already fought before, documented on video. There was a pattern. A defense lawyer doesn't need to prove Jada was innocent. They only need to introduce enough doubt to make a jury question whether Jada was in fear for her safety in that moment. But the prosecution will push back hard on every one of those points. First, the wound location. That you don't accidentally stab someone in the temple. That requires aim. That requires intent. A jury is going to hear that and they're going to sit with it. Second, the behavior after. Witnesses say Jada dumped the contents of her purse out after the stabbing, not rushing to call for help, not checking on Endyah. Endyah's cousin says Jada showed no remorse in those moments. Third, the living situation. If Endyah had been there for more than 30 days, received mail, helped care for those children. She wasn't a stranger who broke in. She was someone Jada knew and had invited into her life. And the prosecution will argue that changes the dynamic of who had the right to be there and who felt more threatened. Fourth, there is reportedly footage, multiple pieces of it, the parking lot, the apartment interior, and Endyah's family says they have the full, unedited video. They say what TikTok shows is clipped. They say the DA has the complete recording. If that footage shows clearly what happened inside that apartment, it may answer every question the court needs answered. Across social media, the community has been loud and divided. Some people are firm. This was murder. Endyah came in for her belongings and she was killed before she had the chance to get them. Others argue just as hard. If someone follows you into your home after already fighting you, you have every right to protect yourself. Comments on TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook have been running for weeks. Nobody agrees. Everybody has a theory. And the most honest voices in all of it keep landing in the same place. We don't have the full video, we don't have all the witness statements, and until that courtroom opens its doors, we are all just guessing. Here's what I will say. This situation had so many off-ramps. The first fight, that was the moment to walk away permanently. Both of them. Jada was 23 with 3 children. There is no version of events where continuing to fight someone you're sharing a space with ends well. And Endyah was 18. New to adulthood, she deserved better. None of that means she deserved to die. Let me be clear. What I keep coming back to is the people in that room. Multiple people were present. Not one of them, but by most accounts immediately helped Endyah after she was stabbed. They watched her stumble out bleeding from her head. A stranger in the parking lot did more for Endyah in her final moments than the people who called themselves her friends. That question is going to come up in a courtroom too. Jada Randle has not been convicted. She is charged with murder. Those are two very different things, and this channel does not convict people before a jury does. But Endyah Adams is gone, and that is not an allegation. That is fact. She had just turned 18. She never got to see what came next. And now it goes to the court. Now I want to hear from you. You've heard both sides. You've seen how the same facts get framed two completely different ways. Step into the jury room. Does the prosecution have enough to make this murder charge stick? Or does the defense have a real self-defense argument? And what about the people in that room who didn't help? Should they face any accountability? Drop your verdict in the comments. Guilty, not guilty, or hung jury. Keep it respectful. Endyah's family is grieving. Jada's daughters are waiting for their mother. If you made it this far and still haven't subscribed to RedRage Crime TV, you watched the whole thing. You're already in the circle. Make it official. Hit subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. When that courtroom opens, we will be right here. This is RedRage Crime TV. You are the jury. Court is adjourned.
Now, Houston police tell us an 18-year-old woman is now on life support after a stabbing at an apartment complex on Sea Spray Court in Northwest Houston. Investigators say this happened around 1 a.m. after the victim and a 20-year-old woman were arguing over a boy. Police say that there was a fight which led to that stabbing. Officers say the woman was stabbed in the head. The suspect is now in custody but has not been identified.
Really and truly, like, that's why I don't want to have all black kids too. Like, it was never about the hair. It was never about none of that. I just didn't want my kids to grow up being bullied like how I was. Because that's why I'm so, like, if y'all realize, like, I always have this defensive mechanism. Like, I always have my guard up all the time, you know? Like, I'm always ready to, like, go at it with somebody that really, like, fight. I'm not like that. It's just, I had to be like that. Because people always would, like, try to comfort me or bully me. And it was just, like, I just got tired of it. I just be like, you know, like, run that. Like, what's up? That's just how it was. But I'm so sweet. I just hate when people have to, like, when people try to bring that out of me. That right there, that's what gets to me a lot. Really and truly, like, that's why I don't want to have all black kids too. Like, it was never about the hair.
This is a stabbing call, assault, aggravated assault at 1700 Seaspray. Happened just before 1 a.m. the incident occurred. My name is Lieutenant R. Wilkins, Willkens. So we have one victim at the hospital, 18-year-old female. She's been stabbed in the temple. We have a suspect who's in custody who is cooperating with us. She's in her early 20s, and she actually lives at the apartment complex where all this occurred. So what we're being told by witnesses and other folks that live in that area is that our suspect lives by herself in an apartment there, downstairs apartment. Today, her and 3 friends, one of them including our victim, went to some type of pool party earlier to yesterday, or this afternoon, or last afternoon. They ended up coming back home, and the 2 individuals, our suspect and victim, got into an argument over a boy, is what we're being told. They started with a fist fight out in the parking lot. Once that fist fight was more or less over, our suspect went into her apartment, was inside there, and our victim decided to follow her back into the apartment, and the fight began again. And that inside the apartment is where we're being told that our victim was stabbed in the temple by the suspect during another fight that occurred inside the apartment.